Born in Salt Lake City, Utah, his fascination with light and sound and the relationships between them began at an early age and recovered in him a great passion for art, both musical and visual. Having played in dozens of bands over the years, his love for performing was born and has flourished. His belief that art should have the same interactive, experiential qualities found in live music has affected his style of art in a profound way. Combining all these interests and elements has been a lifelong endeavor, most recently being realized at The Ohio State University when he graduated with an MFA in Art and Technology in 2012. Besides working in physical media such as paint, wood, and metal, he fancies himself more a sculptor of noise, experience, and community. Through his audio-visual exploration, his work examines perception and cognition as it relates to the formation of identity, all the while seeking to capture the energy found in live musical performance. Please welcome Chris Purdie.
Wait for the computer to wake up. Here I am. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I appreciate the invitation. It's a good experience for me. Hopefully, we'll get a good experience for you. So I'll give it a little bit of background. So, like Amy said, I'm a musician, so as a musician, I played drums with a band that fell into the category of slowcore, and we took it as a compliment when people could fall asleep during our concerts. And especially since we were voted, at that time, Utah's loudest band. So a little while ago, I was paid a similar compliment when one of my projects in my studio was swept up and thrown away by the janitor. That ambiguity is exactly where I like my work to be, using materials that are almost too common to be seen as significant, let alone art. But in his defense, the work wasn't finished yet, so I don't think it was fully art. So it was still pretty much garbage. So when telling a story, you need to decide which details to focus on, which details to leave out. So today I'll be speaking about art, exhibiting, and audience. So there is a lot of my work I won't be discussing, but if you want to, you can go to my website and do that at chrispurdie.com. I will discuss how to define artwork, what is exhibited, and how the audience factors into all of this. So after exhibiting my work for quite a few years, I experienced a crisis and was really confused. I started to question the established institutions and processes of making and exhibiting art. And I had this question come to mind, and it's stuck with me and has kind of influenced a lot of my practice. So if an artist fells a tree in the forest and there's no one there to witness it, did it happen? So that inspired these questions that kind of you'll find in all of my work. So is it necessary to exhibit art? Is the gallery or museum the only place to exhibit art? Is exhibiting about the location or about the audience? What is exhibited? Is it the art or the product of art? Is art the experience or the outcome? And then the final question, how do I provide an audience the experience of art rather than the residue? And I'll explain that in a second. Okay, so I need 3 volunteers to come up and help me with the rest of the presentation. Oh wow, a lot of people. Oh, how do I choose? Okay. What? I don't want to even feel that. Let's see. We'll take one from the right, one from the left, one in the center. There's only one over there, so that makes it easy. Let's go center, center. So one of you two, you fight. Who you want to start?
Rock, paper, scissors.
You can go.
Okay, I'll give it a whirl.
Okay. And who are the hands over here?
You can't even go here.
Let's take someone center back. Let's see. You with the glasses. Yes. Okay, go ahead. Come up here. Meant to make you all feel worse than you already feel. Good. Some treats, helping out. You can sit here in these 3 seats. I'll sit here. There's a few different smaller pieces in there, so they might share with you. Okay. So, you guys raised your hands so fast I didn't even get to describe what you're just volunteering for. I figured I'd have to talk to you. So we're going to be reading a script. So, if you're uncomfortable reading or being in front of large groups, you can switch with someone else. So the microphones don't pick up just from sitting on the table. So what we're going to do, me and you will share. We'll just kind of go back and forth, and each of you share. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you see. So I highlighted your sections. Yeah. So I'm 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think we're ready. Go.
First off, thank you for being here, and thanks for the thought-provoking questions. I can't wait to hear about your work.
Do you have any work that could show us that relates to these questions?
Why, yes, it happens to be the next slide. This is a project titled Burial and Reclaim. What is seen in this image is only a small portion of the overall project. I gathered a lot of material that can be put together in different forms. This is 2 pieces, but they are connected. This location and presentation wasn't the most ideal, but that is sometimes what you get with a group thesis exhibition.
Would you explain a little bit about what we're seeing in this image?
This project involved me going into the forest and burying myself 1 inch at a time and filming and photographing as much as possible. On the screens in the installation is a 2-channel video of my hands digging, which I will show a little bit.
Great.
That's good. So I'll just skip a little bit through this because this is longer. where I use a shovel, but I don't know where it's at. That's okay. Okay.
Now when I say great,
Yes.
it's like I jumped the gun.
Great.
What is the other piece you saw in the photo?
That's a peephole or a door that I embedded in the wall and had a computer screen behind the wall displaying a proof sheet of the time-lapse photos of me sinking into the ground.
What is this project about?
I was thinking about prayer and meditation as well as work, life, death, and renewal. It is directly related to the phrase about the artist in the forest with no one there to witness the act. The idea was that I would go into the forest and do a meditative, prayer-like process that would be private and personal, like most art making is, but in order to prove my work and exhibit the residue of my experience, I had 6 video cameras and 1 still camera capturing as much as possible.
Is this method of capturing and incorporating so much to your process normal for your practice?
Kind of. For the past 10 years, I have been trying to flip my practice and make more of what I do as the experience of creating play a larger role than the residue, which is a result of the experience. I'm taking the analogy of the iceberg and flipping it so the part that is usually hidden becomes visible and the byproduct is less visible.
How do we see that in this piece?
Yes, the digging is given a predominant role, whereas the outcome or product is hidden in a hole in the wall. The product is less significant to me than the activity of making and experiencing.
I see. So where do you see the division between art and making an art? Or do you see a difference?
It is all art.
What?
In reality, it is all residue of our art. Our art is the process and experience of creating the residue we exhibit.
How would you describe the residue?
What is exhibited in a gallery is usually only the proof or evidence of our art. For instance, here are 2 images, the start and end of the process of burying myself 1 inch at a time. These would normally be the result of my experience, which would end up representing the experience I had, but the experience is the real art, not the photos documenting it.
How do you feel the role of an artist is then?
An artist is nothing more than a medium or vent for the zeitgeist or ideas of our time.
So the artist just channels the ideas?
Yes. There are ideas in the air, and it is the artist's responsibility, or anyone's really, to give them form and a voice. All types of artists do this if they are aware.
Yes, we need to be in tune and open to receiving inspiration.
We should take some questions from the audience now.
Yes.
How did you make that
I made the video with they're just little keychain cameras, and I taped them to my wrists, and then so you could see my hands digging. Yes.
Do you act more on impulse, or do you plan the work?
I plan too much. I try to work on impulse, but I'm more of a conceptual thinker, and so there's times where I just have to kind of step away and let things happen.
How long did it take to bury yourself?
Well, it actually took me 4 different times, but that was just because of different things that I didn't prepare for. The first time I went, I didn't realize this was in Ohio, and I didn't realize that the ground was going to be so hard. So I didn't bring really anything to dig with. And I got down about a foot, and it was like cement. I just kept digging, trying to get through it. I had sticks and other things I was trying to dig. It wasn't working. So then I went back the next time and I set my camera wrong. So when it went dark, the camera went dark, so you couldn't see anything. So I had to go back the third time, and that time I got it to work. And I was there between 8 to 10 hours doing it. And then the last time I went back just to capture myself doing it in reverse. So it's like possibly if I wanted to see me coming out of the ground. Yes?
Is most of your artwork like this type of process? Like, do you take the process of making the art and show that to people, or do you have a final product that you show people as well?
Well, yeah, kind of both. But I'm trying to find either the balance or the shift in balance to go towards showing more of my experience of doing things. Maybe not even showing the experience, but giving that experience to the audience. And you guys can ask them questions. Do you have questions? Oh yeah, one more question. Okay, one more question.
What was like the main start that got you into this?
They got me into this piece,
No, like all the stuff that you did.
all of this stuff that I did. Living. I think just life in general.
I'm sorry, that's okay, it's chili flavored.
I think it's a good one. I wanted to try
It
it.
is chili flavored. Oh.
Okay, let's move on to the next piece.
It's chili flavored.
No, it's not, it's just fun.
Okay, so this piece is the speaker's voice box, and it's the largest sound installation I've done so far.
As a sculpture object, it looks like Tony Smith's died.
Yes, I was motivated by the criticism it and other minimalist art had received in the 60s from the critic Michael Purdie. Dye had been convicted of being hollow and taking rather than giving to the viewer.
Why did you choose to build it out of speakers?
I wanted to give it a voice so it could return everything it had taken from the viewers for so many years.
It's kind of a black box recorder.
Exactly. A storage device for human consciousness. Both Smith's and this piece were concerned with perception and consciousness.
Is there really sound coming out of the speakers?
Yes, it is made of 212 speakers.
212 speakers?
Yes, and there are 16 audio tracks with 4 different tracks coming out of each side and a combination out of the top.
16 tracks? What is the sound?
I have a video so you can hear some of the sound.
I am. I am. Thank you.
I think, therefore I am.
Therefore,
Think, therefore I am. Therefore I am.
therefore,
I am.
therefore.
I think, therefore I am.
It sounds like good. It sounds like it would be even better to walk
Around
it
in
person
and hear how the
sounds
mix
and
change.
I saw this piece as an interactive piece because it required movement or a form of theatricality, as Freed would say, in order for the audience to complete the piece through their perception of it.
Was the location where it was exhibited significant?
Yes, very significant. It was exhibited in an old train station that in its own way held the echoes of human consciousness from so many people coming and going on the trains.
We should take some questions from the audience now.
Yes. That actually, well, depends on how you see it. It took me, I was working maybe not on that specific piece, but building up to that for probably about 10 years. I had started collecting speakers about 10 years before that piece. I worked at a place, they were throwing a bunch of speakers away, I collected them, and I was like, someday I'll figure out what to do with these. And then, but then like the actual construction of that cube had to be done in a month and a half because I got a grant and it needed to be done by December. And so I actually had to throw it together pretty fast. So short window of time, a lot of time spent. I was in my studio pretty much 24 hours working on it. Yes?
Is the entire thing speakers or is it hollow?
It's hollow, and it has the computer and the amplifiers and all the other devices inside of it. Yes?
Who are the voices?
Uh,
You know them or?
Yeah. They're actually some of the performers in a project I'll talk about in just a minute, and then they're mostly just friends, and yeah. It's just stacked. Yeah, but the weight of itself pulled itself together. But yeah, and I, like artists do, made these really difficult rules that I had to follow that made everything harder. I said that I couldn't alter the speakers in any way, and I couldn't have a gap larger than 1/4 of an inch. So, yes.
Why did you choose to have it say the phrase, I can't live where I am?
Well, so since Tony Smith's died was kind of originally talking about phenomenology, perception, and consciousness, I was thinking about the first phrase that came to mind thinking about consciousness was Descartes, I think therefore I am. And I liked that you could play with that phrase, and if you said it enough, you didn't know where the beginning or end of it was. And it would flip on itself, and it would say, I think, therefore I am, therefore I think. So I liked that, and that it had the right amount of words so that I could put it in on the sides. So it kind of just worked that way.
how did you access to your computer if it was inside the speakers?
So, see those 3 speakers at the bottom?
Yeah.
See how it's like a lintel on the top? Oh. And posts? So I could push those speakers out and crawl in. And the gallery really enjoyed that because every morning they'd have to come in and do that, crawl in there and turn it on, because they programmed the power to go off every night at a certain time, so they had to go in and restart it every day. We should move on, and we'll have a place for some more questions in a minute. So.
Do you have any examples of your work that has, as you describe it, escaped the traditional formats of exhibiting?
Yes, analog to digital conversion is a good example of a guerrilla project that was installed in a construction walkway downtown Provo. In 2008, the government started preparing people to convert their televisions for a digital signal, which would take place February 17th, 2009. There were many commercials, websites, and flyers educating people why it was necessary to change what was needed to keep TVs working and how to convert. Being a TV addict and wanting to kick the habit, I chose to make my own flyers patterned after the official flyers, but tweak them a little bit so they would tell you how to ensure your TV would stop working February 17th, 2009. I then took the flyers and posted them in a place you might expect to see public service type announcements.
I see. The audience was built into the format and the location of the installment.
Yes, there was a lot of street traffic and walking traffic in this area.
Would you mind if we read through the information on the flyer you made?
No, that would be fun to hear.
Let's start in the front row and have each person read a sentence from the flyer. Would you please start reading?
Did you read the first sentence?
Oh. Big changes are coming to your television, but they have nothing to do with summer reruns of the new fall season. These
That's okay,
changes.
we can go. Thanks.
Thank you.
These changes involve the transition to the digital broadcast on February 17, 2009.
If you use rabbit ears or a rooftop antenna with your analog television, you will not need to take any action to discontinue receiving television broadcasts.
After February 17, 2009, all full-power television stations will switch from analog method to transmitting TV signals to only broadcasting a digital signal which cannot be received by analog TV sets.
For millions of Americans, those whose televisions are hooked up to cable or satellite, or those who have televisions with built-in digital tuners, the transition will take more effort to disconnect.
Do you know what happened to the piece?
Sorry, it's not scripted, but I'm going to say thank you. Yes, the city took it down for me after a few days and saved me the work of deinstalling it.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments?
Was the let TVs die made out of those flyers?
Yeah.
So you just like posted?
Yeah.
Did you ever just hang around the installment and see what people said about it?
Not that one, because I was kind of afraid of getting in trouble.
So you didn't have permission to do that?
No. They had been hanging other art and other flyers on the wall, so I figured it wasn't too bad, but
Is that person in the picture?
that's an art piece. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. So I wanted to switch gears a bit and briefly mention an influential piece to a lot of my work because of how it played with formats and focused on the audience. It's by Dan Graham, titled Performance Audience Mirror, performed in 1970s. Graham would begin describing himself as he stood facing the audience, and slowly he started talking about the audience. Then he would turn around toward the mirror and talk about the combination of himself, the performer, and the audience.
I thought I saw a piece on your website directly related to Graham and his work. This work.
Yes, it's a pair of mirrored aviator sunglasses with the lenses reversed. The title is Mirror Ode to Dan Graham.
I see the influence of Graham's performance has on your work, especially the I Am Chris Purdie project. Would you mind discussing that next?
Yes, but first I would like to mention a project that was in conjunction with the I Am Chris Purdie project. I was given the opportunity to do a few presentations. This was a very uncomfortable situation since I have a fear of public speaking. So I devised a few different types of presentations that matched the concept of the piece I was presenting on and helped to alleviate the anxiety and fear of being in front of a large group.
As artists, we really should use our creativity to exploit the circumstances and limitations of a situation for our aesthetic advantage.
I agree. For the first presentation at UVU, I made a suit of speakers.
What type of suit of armor?
How did the suit function in this setting?
For the lecture, there was a panel of 5 Chris's with microphones wired to the suit. The idea was that everything they spoke was amplified through the suit.
They were speaking, but I am the speaker.
Now we can look at the I Am Chris Purdie project. It was partially funded by the Laycock Center, and I should also mention that the speaker's voice box was also partially funded with an Orchid grant. Both are BYU grants. This project was an amazing experience. There were 35 performers all playing the role of Chris Purdie and interacting with audience members as they attended the artist's reception.
How would a project like this happen?
It started by me being uncomfortable at artist receptions. While I was talking with people at one of my artist receptions, I started imagining a way to escape the situation.
My brother and I have often been mistaken for each other as he is an actor, so I thought it would be a good idea to have him be me at the next reception, and from there the idea grew.
I then thought it would be fun to see how people would react if both of us were there together being me. Then it grew into 35 Chris's. Here is a picture of my brother, dad, and sister from the performance.
How does this idea relate back to Graham's work?
Although the performance needed to be marketed as if it was all about me,
It was actually about the audience and an individual or communal identity.
how was that?
The performers' characters were developed like a relationship would be.
I would have a conversation or two with the performers, and our understanding of each other would form the unique identity which only existed between the two of us, formed from our common interests and experiences. This unique identity was the character the performer played, the composite of the two of us.
The performers were directed to do the same thing with the audience at the performance.
As they had conversations, they would turn the focus from themselves and the art piece to the audience.
Learning information about the audience that they could then absorb into their character.
The goal was to form a community identity and an experience that would exist beyond the one night in the minds of the audience.
So you don't feel that art is about the artist?
The residue of our practice is not about the artist, although our actions and ideas are the art. It isn't about us as much as it is about us, the local and global community.
This piece benefited from being in a gallery setting, yet it really challenged the role of the audience, demanding more than being a passive spectator.
Yes, it did. It was also fun how it played with and subverts the traditions of the artist reception and the perceptions of what was to be exhibited in the gallery.
There is a video for this piece, right?
Yes, thanks for asking.
I am Chris Purdie. is a contemporary performance art piece involving a cast of 35 performers, all playing the role of the artist Chris Purdie.
In March of 2009, each performer wore the Chris Purdie uniform as they interacted with patrons attending the artist's reception. I work daily to refine and define myself by developing the Chris Purdie brand.
That is, I wore the same clothes every single day for a year.
By doing so, I created the Chris Purdie persona to the point that it became a recognizable, unique template for the performers to follow and that patrons could recognize.
With each preparatory meeting, the performers and I had a conversation, mirroring what would happen in the performance.
Our conversations became a collective mirror through which the performers could identify and define themselves.
These conversations brought out different details about each of us, and then the composite was what created the character that each person played.
And is it kind of improv, or have you come up with ideas to share?
Well, we worked on specific characters, but it will be sporadic and it'll be like a conversation.
In this instance, the art looks back at you and talks back to you and asks you to talk to it. I think a lot of people are unsure what to do about that, but it raises interesting questions as to what constitutes the audience, what constitutes the work of art.
More than anything, it got me looking at myself and how seldom I think people get to see my full identity.
Okay, we should take some questions and comments from the audience now. Yes.
So, you said that you worked on it for an entire year. Like, was that the exact same clothes for an entire year?
Yeah, not that I had four pairs, 4 sets of that. Yeah. But yeah, I wore those clothes. It's a long story, but I did. Yes?
How did you go about recruiting 30+ people?
That was tough. I had auditions. I started out just thinking I wanted to have actors playing the roles because they're familiar with this type of thing. I thought it'd be easier for them. And so I held auditions. I had auditions at BYU, at UVU, and at the community in Provo. And I had 6 or 7 people show up. And I think even though it's like a familiar practice for an actor to do, it's not a familiar call for auditions. So I think people were afraid of it. And so it turned into that I worked with the gallery, and we kind of put together a list of people in the arts community that we thought might be interested, contacted them, had them come, and ended up having closer to 40 because we needed some understudies. And so, so it worked out. But it was kind of nice. With the actors, I was hoping that, it would be a bunch of people that didn't know me at all. And with the other people that we had, it kind of turned into a variety of people who knew me my whole life, all the way to people I just met. So, yeah. Yes?
Were you one of the Chris's out there?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't want that to be the case. I wanted to be like at home, relaxing. But the gallery wanted me there, and I think secretly I wanted to be there and see how it all played out. But I thought it would have been fun to not be there. Yes?
So did then people know which one was you, or did they just not know at all?
That was part of like how it began. I told all the performers I didn't want this to be a game, and I knew that people were going to be kind of playing a game, like let's find the real Chris Purdie and all that. And so I said, that's fine, but just don't play into that game. And I directed them, like I said, to really turn the focus and start focusing on the audience and really bring them into this experience and pull them away from the games and the other things that they thought they were getting into so that they realized this was about them becoming part of this identity of this group. Yes?
Did you teach the actors to act like you or answer like you would, or
Somewhat.
just like themselves?
Yeah. Well, it was supposed to be the composite of the two of us. So I didn't want to really have them be me. They were supposed to just kind of do that through observation in the times that we met. We did have a workshop where we talked about a few things that, that would maybe help to strengthen the character in the performance. But in general, it was mostly that they were just supposed to observe things, and the things that they would see would be representations of themselves as much as representations of me. So. Any other questions? Is there a hand back there? No? Anyone else? Okay. Move on to the last piece.
The last piece we should discuss is also outside of a gallery, but had a unique audience built in.
I worked with a band named Mido, which I would recommend listening to. I did an installation piece for their album release concert. This piece was all about enhancing the audience's experience of the music and live performance.
It was just as conceptual and visual as any of my gallery work, but it was exhibited in a unique moment in front of an audience in a different context.
I worked with Mido to create something that enacted the concepts of the album, such as transition, intersections, and the ambiguous state between construction and deconstruction.
We worked together and designed a background that involved light and would transition throughout the concert and have a final reveal.
The piece was made in a way that I had to perform it like an instrument in order for the transitions to happen. Here's the video for clarification.
I watched in all the violent flames. It was a work of my focus. The walls fell apart from a swing set marked in chalk on Central Park. Weight of life, heaviness fades. I pulled them to the stoplight to wait. We found the furthest way along, tied together, two hands hold. One could make it right if one could let go. The way we behave is criminal, is criminal, is criminal, is criminal, is criminal. What we like, daily refrain.
So, in summary, I do feel it is necessary to exhibit art, but there are many different places and ways of exhibiting, in or outside of the gallery or museum, that are often overlooked. In the end, the location is a lot about the audience that comes with it. I think that since what is exhibited is usually the product of an artist's experience, we should work harder to provide an audience the experience of art rather than the residue. Creating and exhibiting art is a process of predicting and guiding an audience's experience. An artist is a facilitator of human interactions. We create stages for the audience to perform on. This can be done in many different ways. It all depends on what the idea requires. Any final thoughts? Yeah, I started as a painter at Utah Valley University. I got my degree, associate's degree in painting. I got a bachelor's degree from Brigham Young University in sculpture, and I have a master's degree from Ohio State University in art and technology.
Did you ever draw?
Yeah, pretty much my whole life until college. I was drawing. And then I started doing other things, and I didn't really like drawing as much because I was busy doing other things, but classes still required us to draw. So, yeah. Yes?
Do you sell any of your art pieces? I mean, it may be hard to sell these.
I do have some pieces, like the glasses. I do have some scaled down things that I do that could be shipped, could be sold, that kind of thing. Do we have enough time for a little story? Okay, I think we do. So I started as a painter because I thought I might make more money as a painter than as a musician. So I started painting and having exhibitions, and I was really excited about selling stuff. I overpriced all my first stuff, so I did a show where I priced everything super low. And what I learned from that experience is that it's easier to take not selling something when it's overpriced than when it's priced really low. So I didn't sell anything, and then that was liberating. So it kind of got me to this place where I'm like, well, if I'm not going to sell paintings, then I can really do anything I want. And so I just started thinking more about the ideas and what format and medium would work best to communicate the idea. That led me to doing more of these projects. So really, for me, the possibilities of making money come more through grants, different types of funding that are out there for public sculpture work, or even working with other musicians, or been working with some people to do stage design for play, so different things like that. Any other comments, questions? I think I have one more thing to say. Thank you.